One of the few things that will always matter in recruiting is your ability as a university to get young men to the next level. With the newest NFL addition to the coaching staff in Stillwater, America, the example has been set that if you, as a recruit, want to get to the league via the Big 12, well, there is no place like home.
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, y'all, and hello, all. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily stop for all things cowboy and cowgirl related. My name is Cody Stovall. I want to thank you kindly for stopping by to make this your first listen. We're available on all of your podcasting platforms, visually as well on YouTube. Find me personally on X at AllDayOState. Today, we're just going to jump right off into the conversation of the coaching staff that Mike Gundy has brought in on the defensive side of the ball, spearheaded by Todd Grantham, has made an emphasis on bringing guys in who have not only SEC experience, Big Ten experience, but an adequate amount of NFL experience. We just covered yesterday that we have 15 years of NFL experience just from Greg Brown being, elevated from an analyst to a defensive backs coach. On top of Ryan Osborne and Todd Grantham, who has 11 years in the NFL. Ryan Osborne has some years in the NFL. We have a lot of assistants that have some years that they've rotated around in the NFL. And now we have another addition to the defensive coaching staff. It's almost like an embarrassment of riches, or the rich getting richer style of situation, because we now have picked up a 9-year NFL veteran that is fresh off of continuing to do the darn thing. And I think that Dean Marlowe is going to be a phenomenal addition to this coaching staff. Dean Marlowe does go back with Jules Montinar to Jules Montinar's days at JMU, James Madison University. He was then brought in after the 2015 draft by the Carolina Panthers. He spent 9 years in the NFL, and he went back and forth between active rosters and practice squads and things of that nature. But he did still find a way to have 159 tackles, 109 of those being solo in 70 games played. And just most recently in 2023, at the end of the year, right? So December, he was still starting and had one of his most productive seasons, which is why there were some conversations by the Buffalo Bills to bring him back once again, because that's where he spent most of his career at, and that's where most of us are going to be able to recognize some of the biggest moments that he had in the NFL was primarily with the Buffalo Bills. He spent over half of his career with the Bills, also with the Lions, the Falcons, and the Chargers. This dude literally just got done playing the game. And in 2024, the Buffalo Bills were interested in bringing him in once again. Now, I don't know if the injury derailed some of those conversations or if he just decided after almost a decade as a DB in the league, if he just wanted to kind of step aside and enter into the coaching realm. And of course, all of these guys that have this brand new clean slate attitude, they also have the ability to enhance their careers very quickly, because just like we saw from Jim Knowles going from Oklahoma State to Ohio State, thankfully Oklahoma State is up to a level that we're only going to lose guys occasionally to your Alabamas, your Oregons, your Ohio States, and that's somewhat okay. The difficulty I have in bringing in guys like this that are so absolutely phenomenal, the only downside, of course, is that you're not getting your loyal and true ride or die guys that are going to stick around for 15, 20 some odd years. So we traded a staff that had, by and large, all been here together for over a decade. We've traded that in for a lot of NFL experience. And I think that is going to be able to not only pay dividends on the field in this upcoming season, but of course, it's going to be massive in recruiting, because we can call a spade when it comes to defensive development. The SEC does do it to a different degree more often than not than everywhere else in the country. Even if it's not just perception, the pay scales from the coaching staffs typically are indicative of their ability to not only recruit, develop, but also find an implementation to make the game day atmosphere worthwhile for the fans. If you continue to come back because you're seeing success over and over again, that is how you build something more successful. That is how we get the upper deck put on Boone Pickens Stadium. This defensive staff, just the NFL SEC stuff, I really cannot get enough of it. And just when I thought we were done, right? Yesterday we talked about Jules Montinar and some of the other coaches like Cap Deedy and Greg Brown and Ryan McNamara. I think those guys obviously provide so much. Keevy Thompson being involved in the nickelback role. Now he's also categorized as a quality control style of analyst, so I don't know if that's going to be directly applicable to Dean Marlowe as well. But nonetheless, this is a dude that could still lace up the cleats and physically show the guys how it's supposed to look and what is supposed to be done and where you're supposed to cheat your eyes to. And whenever you're talking about like, the professional of all professional levels, like the NFL, inches matter, right? In the high school and even some areas of college, if you're just more physically gifted than everybody else, then you're going to shine, point blank, period. When you get to the NFL, you're typically as physically gifted as most everybody else. Now, there's going to be outliers, right? There's going to be the rare birds, the Hall of Famer exceptions. But by and large, most of the dudes are going to come in there with the same athletic ability as you have. So the fact that Dean Marlowe was coached by Jules Montinar, and now he gets the opportunity to lace them up at Boone Pickens Stadium and teach our DBs how to get more out of their capabilities. This is yet another reason why Oklahoma State fans should be excited. Don't know what the over-under is going to be. Hopefully it's low enough that we can hammer the over this season. But nonetheless, the optimism has to be climbing higher and higher every single time we make one of these level of hires, because this is not the traditional route for Mike Gundy. This is not the traditional route for Oklahoma State, because we do like our coaches to stay for a long time. And that's typically okay. But I also have to give, again, Mike Gundy some kudos here, because the lay of the land has changed so much that he took drastic steps to make sure that this is not a repeatable thing, that we do not have another, 3-win season, 4-win season, 5-win season. He knows the expectations because he's the one who raised the bar and set those expectations. Now we have so many coaches with the NFL experience and SEC experience and some Big Ten experience, ACC experience, that they're going to be able to kind of tie that into Stillwater America on top of all of the other, analyst style of roles like J.W. Walsh and Benny Tonga and Rashedi Jones. Those roles can still be passed down through the generations of Cowboy football to the new coaching staff. I'm okay. Let me know down in the comment section for those of you out in the YouTube country. Are you okay with the fact that we could potentially have Todd Grantham and Ryan Osborne and Cap Deedy and Jules Montinar just for a couple of years? If those couple of years equal what it's possible, then I think we're all okay with it. I'm okay with it. Would I prefer a bunch of Zach Robinsons and a bunch of J.W. Walshes? Yeah, absolutely. But we needed an injection that could immediately change the game significantly for us, and this was the only way to do it. And instead of us being, happy and content might be the better word. Instead of us being content with the coaches that we've already brought in, they're continuing to do more. They're still bringing dudes in that can help set that precedence. That it's not just wide receivers and running backs that go to the NFL from Oklahoma State. It's not just linebackers and defensive ends and defensive tackles that go to the NFL from Oklahoma State. We can have just as many DBs and CBs in the league as everybody else. But we needed this kind of coaching to get it. Not only get it in development, but in the recruiting realm as well. As this coaching staff on the defensive side of the ball carries such a massive stick that as long as we can keep them, it's going to keep everybody happy. And it's going to keep our coffers full of endless talent coming back over and over and over. I don't know about you, but I cannot wait for it, because it's been a long time since I think we could all agree that we have this kind of outlook, and it be all decided throughout spring and fall. There is no preconceived notions of who's going to start and who's not going to start. Everybody, for the most part, is going to start with a clean slate, and it's going to be an even competition. Speaking of competition, there's some out there that you need to take down as well. All right, ladies and gentlemen, PrizePicks, you already know, is the best in the business when you're talking a more than or less than, because it's literally just that simple. This is the place where you can get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions in winnings, PrizePicks has changed the game in daily fantasy sports. Whether it's playoffs, regular season, doesn't matter. PrizePicks has made it easier than ever for you to win big while enjoying all of the football action. Now that it's playoff time and it's continuing to heat up, there's no better way for you to get in on the action with PrizePicks. All you have to do is pick more or less on at least two players. And if your pick hits, you could win up to 1,000 times your cash. That's 1,000 times your money, not a misquote or a typo. It's all about making the most out of your capabilities to capitalize on your monetary gains in the most simplistic way possible with PrizePicks. With Flex Play, you can still play double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. And with the app, you get your winnings fast. There's no waiting. It's within 15 minutes. Get ready to run your game this football season. Download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That is 50 bones no matter what, just for playing. So do not wait. Take your game to the next level and run your game your way today with PrizePicks. All right, so we get to shift gears here to talk a little bit more about the roster. So we do know that the NCAA regulations have now made it to where your rosters have to be at 105. Oklahoma State does have a roster that we're able to trim down to 105, but of course, we all know that we've got, another couple 15, 16, 17-ish dudes that are coming in. So we're going to end up over the 120, 122-ish mark whenever everybody does get in on campus, settled in, the whole 9 yards. As it sits right now, though, with the 105 roster for pre-spring that was just put out, there's some surprises. DeKelvin Beeman has gone back and forth, and it appears as though he's back to the fourth part because he's not on this latest iteration of the roster. Another big one that kind of surprised me, and it hurts my heart, is Tabry Shetron. I know we brought in a significant number of tight ends, and I think a lot of us feel very confident in the tight ends that we have brought in, not to mention the fact that you're getting rid of the fullback. So there is going to be a significant amount of competition. Not just because of Talon Shetron, I always kind of hoped that Tabry would be able to kind of get his time to shine in Stillwater America, but maybe it just didn't quite all come together. I know weight gain was a little bit of an issue at one point in time. I also was a little surprised to not see big old 6'7" Calvin Harvey, offensive lineman, not on there. Pahuska's Mason Gilkey is not on there. That hurts the heart a little bit. And Jalen Pope, kind of surprised about this one, seeing as how Jalen Pope was high school teammates with Haas Haney. I assumed that connection was going to be part of Haas Haney coming here. So Jalen Pope not being on this latest roster is a little perplexing, right? We're not gonna lie there. This is going to be difficult because it means that we now have more cuts coming. But at the same time, a big surprise that also came out of this is the fact that we've got like the biggest outside linebackers, maybe not only in the Big 12, but theoretically in the country. Having Yamil Talib over there absolutely makes sense. I think even to some degree, I could see Malik Charles, Rashad Bradley. I mean, Malik Charles does have the ability, I think, to be more of a traditional defensive end, but I know he's not as big on the weight as everybody else. Jadavian Bradley out there, of course, that makes a lot of sense. Number 1 ranked JUCO linebacker in America. But the biggest surprise of all of them is the fact that Jaleel Johnson is out there. You're telling me we're going to have a 6'5", 265-pound outside linebacker? I'm all for it. Not only because I think we all can see that there's been spurts of Jaleel Johnson making some miraculous things happen. I also think that this is a good indication for Deshaun Brown because it'll allow him to focus on perfecting his craft at his spot instead of having to bounce around from each side. And are you going to flex out? Are you going to put your hand in the dirt? So this clearly seems to be an indication that Colin Oliver, a.k.a. Von Miller style of role is going to be held down by this group. Jadavian Bradley, Rashad Bradley, I think could have been 2 guys that were penciled in early to kind of take that spot. But if Jaleel Johnson is moving out there, that means that we see something from a staff perspective that indicates that he can not only put his hand in the dirt, he can be a stand-up outside guy, but he can also get out in coverage and not allow the running back to leak out with a free release, or the tight end as well, to kind of prevent some of the chipping whenever you, as a quarterback, don't know who's coming and where they're coming from. So the athleticism that we believe that Jaleel Johnson is going to be able to exude is a very uplifting thing for us to see as a fan base. Now, as it pertains to the limitation thing, the nerve-wracking nature in which the cuts provide can be a good thing. And I think the argument needs to be made that it will be a good thing. Just like we talked about earlier, whenever the first round of cuts came, nobody saw it coming. Nobody knew it was coming from a player's perspective. So it caught them off guard. And of course, even the ones that felt like there was no way they were going to, get walking papers or be asked to transfer, even those dudes were insanely excited. They were like kids again. I made the team. Can you believe it? I made the cut. That added a lot of excitement. And then we have this massive kind of wave of transfer portal guys, not just because we had dudes leaving. Obviously, the graduation number played a significant hand in all of this. But I think it's going to be a good thing because competition breeds excellence. Pressure makes diamonds, right? You know how all that goes. And if you are an individual that played last year, you now know that if we have 122, 123 some odd players, when it's all said and done, when spring gets kicked off, we're going to have to make more cuts, which means some of the true freshmen that are arriving might not be safe. Some of the redshirt freshmen, the remaining freshmen, the upperclassmen, nobody is safe. And I think that is going to breed, to some degree, excellence. The complacency is already gone, right? None of these coaches, nor any of these players, have any room for a season of complacency. None of them have room to not be on a mission to prove something, even though there are a significant number of these transfer portal guys that we've brought in that have multiple years of eligibility, which I would say clearly was something that we were looking for. There are some guys like Trip White who only have a year that have to maximize this season to its absolute fullest. Jalen Davies, Havili Kavusi. There are some dudes that this is their last trip. This is their last opportunity to make a name for himself and either get drafted or like Brian McCoy at Akron, maybe he wants to take that 5th round draft grade and improve it. Obviously, he thinks that by coming to Oklahoma State, he's going to be able to do that. That's a risk. That's a big risk. If you ask me, if you have a 5th, 6th, 7th round draft grade out of Akron right now, then you're probably pretty safe bet to be drafted for the most part. Coming to a different school is not going to change that unless you have a Nick Martin level season. But Brian McCoy has the ability to do that. And a large part of that is because of the coaching staff that we've been able to bring in, which is yet another reason why I'm not crazy worried about the roster limitation issue. Because this is going to allow people to focus more so than ever before, knowing that there's not going to be enough spots left over. There's going to be 15, 16, 17-ish dudes that participate in spring that do not get to suit up for the Cowboys when the season starts. And I think that, alongside all of the technical fundamental training that these guys are going to get, not only just because, again, there's not any complacency, because these coaches want to elevate as well. Guys, Todd Grantham's not getting any younger. Doug Meacham's not getting any younger. These dudes want to prove something still yet. And more often than not, when you're getting a coordinator job at this age, this is one of your last opportunities to prove you can go be a head man. So if Todd Grantham turns in back-to-back top 10 defenses, he's gone. He's a head coach somewhere, and we're fine with it. This is a phenomenal thing. Is it inevitably going to happen that there's some players that we all like and love that don't make the next round of cuts as well? Yeah. But it's also going to force everybody to know that if you show up complacent or you're lacking, you're not taking care of everything you're supposed to on and off the field, in the classroom, in film, in nutrition. If you're not doing all of that, it's going to make it super easy for you to be on the cut list. If you're wanting to participate in the nightlife of Stillwater, America, and get too caught up in the strip too often, it's going to be reflective of your lack of playing time, because these coaches do not have time to even really establish favorites. Because even if they establish some favorites, there could be a possibility that they got to cut them still yet. So the fact that everybody is not only starting with a clean slate, but everybody's also to some degree on the chopping block to enhance their careers. Some of these guys only have 1 year to do it. Some of these coaches only have a few years left to do it. That is why I think this is a good thing. It is going to force anybody who's not taking care of their business on a regularity. Those are the walking paper individuals. It just makes it so much more simplistic. And again, I'm saying this knowing that there's likely going to be some of my guys that are going to be part of both sides of the equation, right? Some of the dudes that I've been able to cover the last few years in recruiting. And of course, I want to see those guys thrive. But some of them have already, gone elsewhere. And it's likely with this roster limitation thing, it's not over yet. But I think the competition, both from the staff perspective and the players' perspective, is going to catapult us back to where we're supposed to be. Speaking of being where you're supposed to be, today's landscape of everything really is different. And with all the stresses that come alongside with it, therapy can be a game changer. And Talkspace is going to help you manage stress, improve sleep, and communication more effectively. By finding the right therapist and the right sessions into your busy schedule, it can be a challenge, and Talkspace is here to help with that. Talkspace is the leading virtual therapy provider, and it makes getting that help you need super easy, accessible, and affordable. With Talkspace, signing up is simple. You can match with a licensed therapist who fits your needs, usually within 48 hours, and it's convenient. You can have sessions from the comfort of your home and even message your therapist between appointments. Plus, Talkspace is covered by many insurance plans, and for most insured members, there's a $0 copay. It's never been easier to prioritize your mental health. As a listener of this podcast, you'll get $80 off your first month with Talkspace when you go to Talkspace.com/LockedOnCollege, all one word, and enter the promo code SPACE80. To get matched with a licensed therapist today, go to Talkspace.com/LockedOnCollege, all one word, and enter the promo code SPACE80 to get the $80 off your first month and show your support for this show. Make sure that you go to Talkspace.com/LockedOnCollege, use the promo code SPACE80 to get the mental clarity that you need in therapy. All right, before we skedaddle on off of here, we have to talk a little bit about how baseball, the anticipation should always be high in baseball at Oklahoma State, right? We know that. Well, Perfect Game, who's one of the leading innovative creators of all things baseball, they came out with their rankings. Oklahoma State has 3 Cowboys on the top 75 freshmen in America team. We have number 61, Garrett Scholl, number 39, Noah Welch, and number 31, Ethan Lund. On top of that, we've also got some upperclassmen involved in here. We've got 3 top 75 seniors by Perfect Game as well. Ian Doherty from Kingfisher, Oklahoma, Aiden Miola from Florida, and Colin Brueggemann. And then in the middle, we've also got a couple dudes that we need to pay attention to. When it comes to juniors, we have number 28 in the country, Gabe Davis, and number 12 in the country, Nolan Schubert. Nolan Schubert, if you haven't watched Cowboy baseball, he's worth price of admission almost by himself. And we've had a lot of those guys recently, like your Rock Regios and your Nolan McLeans, and Schubert is no different. Plus, we might have some versatility all across the board that we maybe haven't had in quite some time. So it'll be exciting to see how it goes, just like it'll be exciting to see how Cowgirl basketball goes after the Cowboys took another beating last night. It is what it is. But statistically, though, wasn't as indicative, in my personal opinion, as the final score, because points off turnovers, they had 17, we had 12. Sorry, it was pretty close. Second chance points, close. Bench points, 26 for them, 33 for us. So we actually outgained them by bench. The lead swapped multiple times. Points in the paint, 24 for us, 38 for them, right? So they beat us in that department. Fast break points, 15-10, pretty close. 9-9. Field goals, 25-54 for us, 32-57 for them. So not marginally, only marginally better. Free throws were pretty much identical. 3-point shooting, pretty much identical. Rebounds offensively, pretty much identical. Total rebounds, they got us. Blocks, they got us. Steals, they got us. Assists, they got us. Turnovers, they got us bad. And we were even on fouls. So obviously you want things to go better given the predicament that we're in, that now we've dropped one in Gallagher. And that is the hard part. My only thing coming into the year was protect the Gallagher-Iba Arena. As long as you do that, I don't really care what happens on the road. Well, now you've dropped one in Gallagher. 78-92, it could have got even uglier than that, right? So I guess decent job on fighting. But we get a 3-day break here before we've got to worry about it again. It's okay. Now we just need to make sure to emphasize getting a win on the road, which we weren't worried about coming into this game because we hadn't really lost. We'd only lost one other game in Gallagher. That changed a little bit. Just like the Cowgirls now have their big moment. The biggest game of the season by far is here in just a few minutes against the TCU Lady Horned Frogs, who are undefeated on the road this season. They rank top 5 nationally in multiple categories, including assist-to-turnover ratio, assists per game, and blocks per game. They're 10th in the country in scoring margin. They're 6th in the country in three-pointers per game. Sedona Price is number 1 in the country in blocks, and she's number 1 in the country in blocks per game as well at 3.5. She's also one of the tops in the country, allegedly, at getting her crisp beard on. And then Madison Connor is a 3-point specialist that can absolutely be destructive from beyond the arc. And TCU has 3 players in the top 15 in scoring in the Big 12. 3. Oklahoma State has 1, and that's like 14th or 15th, Staley Hurd. Now, we all know that we've got ladies that can get ridiculously hot, like Macy Heward, like Anna Gredassi, like Micah Gray. But Staley Hurd's going to continue to need to drive this thing. And maybe we need to see a little bit more offensively out of Jaden Wooten. She seems to be getting better week after week, as is Tegan Magassa. This is going to be Tegan Magassa's biggest battle of her career. At least, no, it is the biggest battle of her career because she hasn't really played at this level to this atmospheric, pressure before against somebody who's projected to be one of the best players in America. And when you have 2 girls averaging 19 points a game and another girl averaging over 15 points a game, it's going to be hard to shut down all 3 of them. So Tegan Magassa is going to have to kind of take that role on down low by herself against somebody who is extremely physically imposing. Yeah, pun intended. Anywho, this will be a good one. I can't wait for it. I'm excited. It'll tip off here in a bit. So until next one, that's all we're going to have here. As always, God bless. Go Pokes. Thank you for tuning in to make this your first listen here in Locked On Oklahoma State. You could be anywhere, so happy you choose to be here. Like it if you like the daggone thing. Dislike it if you don't. That's okay, too. More importantly, share, comment, and subscribe. My podcast people out there, you're the bricks, the bread, the butter, the fountain, the fondue. Funny stuff, funky stuff, you're all of it. Hit the stars, do what you do, leave a review. Later, taters.